Hello, 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 everybody, and thank you for your patience if you have been waiting for the 10 minutes that we've had all these amazing glitches with sound, etc. But it's Paula Nutting, your musculoskeletal specialist, and it is our final Ask Me Anything for 2022. And I'm so excited because I've left one of the best people to last, and it's actually Nancy Shaw. Now, many of you people probably don't know who Nancy Shaw is, but you will know Travell and Simon. So you'll know about Dr. Janet Travell, because she was one of the gurus that pretty much coined and started what trigger point therapy was, myofascial pain syndromes, etc. And Nancy worked with and under teaching for Janet Travell for 8 years. But I'm going to introduce Nancy to you and get her absolute volumes of wisdom and any comments that you want to ask Nancy, because the jury's been out a little bit about trigger points and what the history on it is and the evidence. So let's get Nancy on board so we can have a great time chatting to you all about this amazing person and the history behind it. So come on board, Nancy.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I got to set this a little bit.
Yeah.
Good.
Gotcha. Welcome, Nancy. It's wonderful to get you here.
It's really exciting. I spent almost a year in Perth back in the 90s. Loved Perth. It was wonderful. And would have stayed longer, except Dr. Travell said I had overstayed my 6-month permission, and I had already stayed 9 or 10 months. So
I saw in your CV that you had Perth there. For people who have no idea what Perth is, it's the capital city of Western Australia, and Western Australia is probably about 5.5 hours from the east coast of Australia by plane. So it's quite a ways. And what were you doing there, Nancy?
I was working with John Whiteside. I'd met him at a conference over here. He came to hear Travell, and we having coffee in line for coffee, and he heard that I had run a school. He said, "Why don't you come to Perth and start a school for me?" This was in November, and so we sat down 15, 20 minutes, and I left in January for Perth. It was like 2 months later. And it was so exciting because he was already somewhat indoctrinated with it from being with Travell and a number of her conferences. And so it was exciting. It was like taking a step beyond what anyone would have thought possible. And the people there were very excited. It's like they couldn't get enough. I think in Perth we finished at 5 o'clock at night, and they're like, "Well, we can stay a couple more hours if you want to." So they were very excited about it. And the thing that was interesting is that the whole premise of her work is so understandable. It's not complicated. It's not so scientific that people can't understand it. In fact, one of her favorite comments was, "The simplicity of this will confound the medical profession."
Yeah.
And that was because they wanted her to have double-blind studies and evidentiary evidence and that sort of thing. And she would say, "How can you get, if you really knew what trigger points were, how can you get 10 people with back pain across the low back who their life has been exactly the same so you could treat them the same?" Because her whole premise is that muscles learn whatever we teach them. So if you're in the studio and someone else is out cutting grass and someone else is in a restaurant working, the back pain comes from a myriad of places. And so her thing was that, and in the first volume of her textbook, she said that the perpetuating factor chapter was one of the first chapters in the book. She said that chapter, the perpetuating factor chapter, was the most important chapter in the manual, not the muscle pack, not the muscles. She said everybody knows muscles, but what they don't know A doctor told me one time that muscles were like the stepchild of medicine. No one wanted them.
Oh, that's so sad.
And so her thing was, we're going to make them real, because muscles are so responsive to whatever we do. And so in going over and working with John, it was extremely exciting. One of my first experiences with him, he had a guy that he had been working his shoulder, and he had done everything he could, and he couldn't get the guy to raise his arm. And so I showed him a couple muscles that I thought were the issue because of how he was sitting, only because of the way he was sitting. So we fixed those, and 10 minutes later, his arm was straight up.
Yeah.
So
that's an incredible story.
Yeah, and John was like sold forever on the work.
So Nancy, people know of the books and the posters. Like every other therapist on the planet has got trigger points 1 and 2 in their chart in their clinics. I use mine mostly just for confirmation of is this where you feel the headaches, and so it gives me a bit of a landmark and gives my patients confirmation that their pain is real versus it's all in their head. But people don't know who you are, Nancy. Can you give us some background of you, where you came from, and how you became involved with Dr. Travell?
Yeah, I grew up in Nebraska, went to the university in sciences, and finished my degree in the natural sciences. Went on to do graduate work in counseling and psychology in Illinois, because I found that so many patients had so many head issues that no one could explain their pain, but they knew it was real. And so the mental stuff started becoming real easy. So I got my master's in that. And then I moved out here to DC area and went to a workshop on a Saturday where they were talking about pain and trigger points and stuff. And even people who use the term triggers, and they would say work the line on the sleeve, work the pocket in the back. No one was putting no one knew the scientific part yet. And so I called one day to her office to see, I wanted to get her autobiography. And her office manager answered and said, it's out of print, but she uses a book finder that I think will be able to find it for you. So she gave me the book finder. 40 minutes later, Dr. Travell called me and wanted to know who I was that wanted her book. And I was like, oh, I'm a little farm girl from Nebraska. I shouldn't have done that, maybe, because here she is, Kennedy's physician, and living on Capitol Hill. And we talked for 40 minutes. And at the end, she said, when are we coming to visit? And I was like, And so she set up a time, and I was like, how long do I go? Do I go on time, or a little early, or a little late? What do I do? And so I sat out front until it was exactly the time she said, and went in. She answered the door. She had 2 Kennedy rockers sitting facing each other, fire going. And she started talking, and she leaned forward and she said, would you like paper and pencil? Everything she said, you wanted to write down. There was just so much knowledge there. So my plan had been to stay about 20 minutes. I thought that was appropriate. Well, 4 hours later, as I left, she said, when are we coming back? And that started 13 years with her.
Wow.
And I asked her at one point, because a lot of doctors wanted to study with her. A lot of allied people wanted to study with her. And her thing was, I wasn't so inundated with medicine that I wouldn't be able to hear her. But she said, doctors coming in, they've already got their umbrella of what they know and what they're going to use and all this sort of thing. And so it was because I didn't know enough that she was willing to have me come in. And one of the first things she said, and this is critical for anyone who wants to use it, she said, if you don't know what that person's life is about, you can't get them better. 75% of getting people rid of their pain is perpetuating factors. All the things that they do that got them in pain. You can get rid of the pain, but it's going to come back if you don't change why it got there. 75%. And then 15% was the stretch retraining. 10% is what I do on the table.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so those are incredible stats. I was just going to backtrack to say to people that the Kennedy chairs is because JF Kennedy, and she was their physician. Is that right?
I lost you. Say it again.
Oh, was Janet Travell, was Dr. Travell JF Kennedy's physician?
Yes, she had treated the whole Kennedy family in New York as a doctor. Yeah. And then when he was on crutches from a PT boat accident in the war, and he was on crutches, and he wanted to run for the presidency. And she said, then we have to get you off those crutches. And so she did. I mean, 2-3 weeks later, he was off the crutches, won the nomination, and he called her. He was in Florida at the time, and he called her and said, I want you to come to Florida tomorrow. And she said, but he said, no, I mean, come tomorrow. So she got down there, and he said, you're going to the White House with me. He said, if you could do what you did and get me capable of running for the presidency, and I didn't need anything except just to be who I was, and I go for it. So she went to the White House. The first non-military physician in the White House, and the first woman physician in the White House.
Wow.
And the military wanted to give her a commission so that stat would hang on. And she said, why would I do that? She didn't want any military commission. She didn't need any military commission. And then shortly into his presidency, she had the rocker made for him.
And she had the rocker made for him.
Oh, she designed it. She designed it.
Oh my God!
I have two of them. They're exceptional. I had a lady who had been in bed for 13 years. Got into my office, and she sat down, and she had to have Uber bring her. She was on a cane and shuffling. She had not been out of bed for 13 years. She sat down in the rocker, and her face just glowed. She said, I don't feel any pain when I sit here. And so she took my rocker home and is progressing well. But the rocker, the rocker fits everyone. I've had 6'9" people and 4'2" people, and it fits everybody.
I'm Googling the Kennedy rocker now because I have never heard of it.
If you Google the original Kennedy rocker, it's you can get it in North Carolina. There's some knockoffs, but they have the real one, and then you just pick out what cushions you want added to it. I have probably 45% of my patients order.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. But and you suddenly you think that you know all this stuff, but it's only $679 from the Kennedy Rocker's original.
And it's the original Kennedy Rocker. It's not a knockoff.
Yeah, because the knockoff's $99, folks. So
you can tell.
you pay for what you get. Wow, that's incredible. So you said 10% is stretching?
No. 15% stretching. 10% is what we do on the table. That's it. But here's why. The first thing she taught me when I really started studying with her, she said, I want you to have your patients bring you photographs of all their positions, all their sitting positions, watching TV, reading, computer, eating, side view in the car, whatever. And then all their pictures on top of the bed with their pillow, all the positions they sleep in, back, side, stomach, whatever. And then standing pictures, this is a fun one, standing pictures facing you, back to you, and side to you. and then a couple pair of shoes, picked her a couple pair of shoes. And the next time I went, I was supposed to have patients bring those so we could go over them. And I didn't. And I was like, God, how could I not do that? And so she said, we will have them next time, right? Because I was going regularly. So I did. And I handed her the picture. I was so proud I had 2 pictures. And she said, what do you see? So I told her, I mean, it was pretty obvious, stuff. And she said, well, what else? And I'm like, I don't know. So she started teaching me from those pictures. The greatest gift I think she gave me was the skill of observation. I can have someone walk in at this, which eye sits lower than the other, so that they actually have a length-like discrepancy from that. And that's the first thing you always correct. And I can have people come in with severe back pain, change that, put a lift in their shoe. It's an easy test. I'll show you how, because it's so much fun.
Yeah, please.
And they walk out without pain in their back, because you even out the whole, instead of being on like this on the side of a hill, they're on level ground.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. That'd be fun. I'm thinking, I'm sitting here really conscious. Am I sitting properly? Is Nancy staring at me going, you've got a problem here?
Just sit there. Your right shoulder's higher, which means that your right leg is shorter. Have you noticed a difference in shoe size right to left?
Yeah, always half a size different. And I always ask my patients when they come in, I look at their shoes to see if there's wear and tear differences, because I
think there will be. If you're on the low side, you're going to hit the ground harder every time.
Yeah, so you wear out harder.
So what happens is there's a very easy test. Is she around? Is somebody
Nancy,
around?
I think you're bumping the cord a little because
sorry.
That's okay. Sometimes it's breaking up a bit. It's 98% perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So all you have to do, applied kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
If had you stand up, you put your arms out, and she would try and push you down.
Yep.
She would be able to push your arms down because you're crooked. Your strength is compromised. So if I put a 1/4 inch lift under your right shoe, your shoulder would come down even, and she could do this, and she could, with fist, you down.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So as soon as that's even, the whole body, the whole body is in balance and capable of anything.
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm just Christine in the background is just saying we might need to adjust that mic a little bit because it is making a little bit of a crackle sound. But I always thought that if a shoulder was up,
because if your hip is low and your shoulder's low, you'd be walking around like this.
Oh, so then you have to self-adjust.
So the brain says, if that hip is low, we're going to put that, and it'll actually cause a functional scoliosis. The quadratus lumborum attaches on the 12th rib, the lumbar spine, and the hip iliac crest. So that muscle, if the hip is lower, has to get longer to its and it can't, the rib won't move and the crest doesn't move, but the lumbar spine does. So it will pull the spine in that direction to get longer.
Yeah.
Which is a functional scoliosis, not structural. And then it'll have a compensatory curve up at the scapula in order to keep your eyes level. And both of those, the scapula, the lumbar and thoracic scoliosis, once you put that lift in, within a couple inches, those are gone.
Yeah. So she used to work really well with podiatrists. She liked podiatrists, or she didn't need podiatrists because she was simplifying it with just simple heel lifts.
Say it once more.
You have podiatrists over there that So would she need to refer to a podiatrist, or it was just be simply just do a little heel lift?
No. What I will do is give you the address, and you can order them, and I just have them in my office. They only cost like, I don't know, $3 or $4. And so I'll show you one before we leave. And there's a lot of them on the market, and they start, and there's they come out about a 1/4 inch, but then they start slanting down right away. So you only have a 1/4 inch correction, which is nothing. You have to have the correction all the way through the heel, and then there's a slight taper so that you don't have a drop off. Yeah. And all they do is put that in their shoe under the insole, and immediately people will stand there and they'll say, "Can I walk?" It feels so good. They cannot believe that that's all it. They give them a lift for all the pair of shoes that they wear the most. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. We want to be doing those kind of balances and rebalances. Now, I actually forgot that I was going to throw into an advert for. I normally talk about our Q Academy because they're one of the sponsors for the Ask Me Anything pages, and they are amazing. I've worked with them over the years, and it's a college that specialises in massage, so certificate 4 and diploma, and they're just starting up an associate degree in myotherapy, which is really exciting. So we're going to flip over to an advertising advert for them now, and then we're going to come straight back and keep talking. Awesome.
Excellent. Thanks, Nancy.
My name is Jade Afu. I studied Cert 4 massage in 2014 and then went on to remedial in 2015. I was working in ASICS. I was retail, Lorna Jane. The real reason why I went and studied was my daughter was, she's been quite sick for about 7 years on and off. She's had a couple of chronic conditions. So I found it hard working in a job and having to leave because my children are sick, or I've got to go to hospital, or there's just so many things going on. For me, I needed another option. I've been set up for about 8 years now, working from home. Having a home business has been like such a blessing to my life. I don't think I could have done what I've done somewhere else just with my own circumstances. My life's very busy. I've got 3 kids. And this year has been a little bit different again because now I've got 3 kids playing sports every afternoon. So I do try, if I can, work in between school hours. I feel like you can make it work to your advantage. So you can either work as hard as you want and be stressed and all the things, or you can make it flexible.
Thank you, and thank you for listening to that. And hopefully Nancy's mic set will be sorted out because we're having a few glitches back and forward. We get so excited.
I'm going to put it up here and try not to touch it.
Yes, no more touching things. You're not supposed to, Nancy.
I know. I get all excited, and then I'm like, oh.
I can tell. There must be Italian background with all those hands.
No, it's not. It's Irish, English, and Dutch.
Oh, wow. How amazing.
But I lived in a Czechoslovakian town for 14 years, and Czechs are pretty active.
Yeah, that's
They're
incredible.
Very expressive.
So that will be where it comes from. Yep. I was just looking at, thank you so much for sending me your book, Simple Changes to End Chronic Pain. What I was doing through it, it's my light reading when my partner is watching stupid TV shows on Netflix. I just put my earplugs in and read. But I noticed that at the front of the book, you talk extensively about sleeping positions. You're talking about that, resting positions. You can see the photos that are in here. There's pages and pages and pages. So that's the kind of stuff that you were talking about that Dr. Travell was asking you just to get
written pictures. If you go to the section, go a little bit further there's a whole section with 6 different sleep positions. It's a whole separate chapter. And it'll show people like sleeping in a fetal position.
Yeah. I'm recognizing the half stomach. That's me.
But what's interesting is that she also, I think one of her greatest discoveries, and I'm actually writing a little booklet on Tervel's 10 most important discoveries. Yeah. And one of them is that 99.9% of back pain comes from the front, has nothing to do with the back.
I agree.
It's the rectus abdominis and the iliopsoas. The rectus abdominis refers across the lumbar, and iliopsoas up and down on the lumbar. So if you think about it, everything we do all day is bending forward. Everything is bending forward. We don't do things going backward. So this brings up the premise of why the muscles end up with a problem, because if you think of a bucket of water and there's a drip and you put a bucket under it, it catches all these drops, it's no big deal until one more drop and the bucket's full, and then it starts overflowing. So if you think of a muscle here with a tendon at each end, every time you use that muscle, you put tension in. And the next time you use it, you put more tension in, and more tension in, and more tension in. And people start noticing that if I say, can you tell me where you're tight? Oh yeah, my hamstrings and my, this. That's because the bucket's filling up. And they're not doing anything, they just keep filling it. And so once the bucket is full of tension, it will do one of 2 things. It starts cramping severely, like a Charlie horse cramp almost, or it's pain. And every movement of that muscle after that will be pain until you empty the bucket with stretch. Yeah. Once you empty it with stretch, it has full motion. What most people tend to do is they go at the gym because they feel like they're getting weaker. If a muscle is half contracted, it's only got half power. So it is going to be weaker. If you take a fist and just make a fist, hold it for a minute, and then a few seconds let go of your fist, your fingers don't come all the way out here because they've got tension in them. And I had a kid come in with his resting hands position was like this because he rode in crew. So his hands never came out, and he came in with shoulder and arm pain. Yeah. And so what happens is, as the muscle gets fuller and you don't empty it, people think the answer is, if it's because I've been using it wrong, I need to go use it right and make it stronger. Length is strength, not more contraction. More contraction makes it weaker. So the longer, if you have a half a glass of water, you can only drink a half a glass. But you only have half a muscle working because the rest is full, you only have half power. So instead, if you empty that with very specific stretches, and I have a real aversion to stretches that are being taught, but if you stretch it back to full range of motion with no discomfort, you are stronger than you can even remember. Mm-hmm. And so they say for every hour that you work out in the gym, 40 minutes of stretch to neutralize it. Nobody does that.
No one has time. And no one thinks about it. The education's not around it.
But here's the thing. Tervel would say, when you know the postures from those pictures, when you know what you're doing to cause the muscle to be tight, we do one of 3 things. We adapt. If it's tight, we just, whatever it is, we just do it differently. And if then we accommodate it. If we still can, because the bucket's getting fuller, then we start using the other arm. I can't do this, getting something out of the cupboard, I'll use this one. And then after that, you actually change and give up what you've been doing. I can't ski anymore, but okay, I'll learn how to play tennis. Or I can't, they changed, they compromised. who they are because the muscle's tight and no one showed them how to stretch it out. There's nothing wrong with it. Muscles are not injured. They're not from injuries. They're not from anything other than just being taught to be tight. Because you see a lot of literature on knee pain being from different sports and twisting the knee and all sorts of things, and that's not true. It's like what happens. I mean, if you tear meniscus, that's an issue. But most of the time, what happens if you twist an ankle, then you walk differently. So you accommodate, instead of getting those muscles stretched out, you accommodate them, and then it gets a little tighter. So then you limp, and you go up steps with the other leg, and then pretty soon you go to the doctor, and he puts you in a cast and gives you, medication. It's crazy. Because if you'd simply, in the back of the book, toward the end, there's a stretch where you do a foot roll to the side, and that stretches out any ankle injury that you have. I was in a bike accident in 2005. I was hit by a car going 45 miles an hour, and I had 8 fractures in my back, and they told me I'd be crippled, and I got back to DC and went to my doctor. He said, "What did you tell him?" I said, "I told him that Tervel says I don't function with my bones. My spine is actually like this, with my head out in front. Even now, it all fused. But I taught my muscles to pull it up here, so my head's up here." And so it took me 2 years, and I'm upright. I have a funky curve in the back, but I'm upright. I bike in the Shenandoah Mountains. I cross-country ski, and I golf with no pain. Because it's muscles. It's muscles.
Okay. I agree. This is the one that we're talking about. That's the ankle roll. Tell me.
If you do it, and you probably only go about this far, like, I don't know if you can see me, about this far. I can now. If you keep doing it, it'll go all the way over. The thing that most people do with stretching is try and stretch too much, too far. Stretching, according to Terrell, it's the frequency that teaches muscles a new memory. They have an old memory of being short, so that's the default. If you're going to change that memory, you start doing a different movement, and you only do 2 reps. Hold it for 2 breaths, but you do it every 2 hours, which takes about a minute and a half is all it takes. And that will change the muscle memory so you can do any stretch you have to do.
So this is I was talking to Petra Fisher. So she is all about joint mobility and range, and making sure that you go through passive range and feeling every joint can go through a cycle. Obviously, there's stretching and stretching. Yeah, we're talking about, you don't want ballistic stretching. We don't want stretching that's going to trigger the Golgi tendon organ to do a stretch reflex. So we're saying that, like, if I've got a patient who's restricted on the right-hand side, I'm going to get them to take over to the left, take 2 breaths, come back, 2 breaths. Outside of pain.
To stretch the top of the shoulder.
Yeah,
if you move to the side of your chair just a little bit to the left, and then take your hand and hold this in the middle of the side of your chair. So this becomes a passive stretch. You don't turn your head. Don't move your head. Okay. Just lean to the side. And that stretches the shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. I can feel that.
2 breaths. And then reach toward the back of the chair. And then angle, lean forward. Nope, this way, toward me. At an angle. So you get the back part of the shoulder.
Yep, got it.
And then if you hold in the front and go backward at a diagonal, you get the front.
Yeah.
So people can do those anywhere, anytime, for a few seconds and start getting rid of all this. One of the things that I see all the time is that people are stretching their head and they're going like this. If you think about it, it's crazy, because if I do this, I'm shortening all of these muscles to stretch this side. So then when I'm done, these are tighter than I started with. So then you have to do the other side. So you put this one up, and then you tighten this one right back up. So there's a lot of these that you can do just with positional weight movement of your body. You don't need none of my patients use any kind of props. It's all body weight and movements that they can do wherever they are. And then, for instance, at a red light, I let people take and just stretch in their lap, or just stretch straight out. Yep, and then elbows. Yeah, so you bend a wrist, and your elbow goes out.
Yep.
Yep, and then the other way. Bend your elbow. Yep. So that stretches all the way up into the upper arm. And you could do that at a red light.
Yeah. I'm normally telling people to turn their pelvic floor on at a red light. But learning how to turn it off, because that's a trick. Again, that's the weak muscle. If you don't turn it off, it doesn't learn to take a full contraction.
Yeah. And the thing you were saying about all the wrist stuff and finger stuff, if you do that once a day, twice a day, the muscle will never be fully functional. Because if you do it in the morning for half an hour, and the rest of the day you're on the typewriter and you're on the whatever, it goes right back to the memory that it knows. That's why the frequency is what's so critical.
Okay.
If you only stretch a few times a day, and even for an hour in the morning and half hour at night or whatever, the muscle doesn't learn anything. The only way it learns it is frequently doing it. And then it says, we can do that. Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, like a cat. Every time it moves, it stretches. The first thing it does, it's static, stretch, action.
Yep.
I just see one of a friend of mine, Jeffrey Fong, who's from Victoria, is just saying great method. They're amazing, the things that we're learning. So do you think that if someone's got as we learned at college, a trigger point is a taut band that will elicit a twitch reflex in common pattern pathways. Can we get rid of that trigger point with a stretch, or do we actually have to do manual maneuvers as well?
We don't treat trigger points. We don't even treat them. We treat the source of where it came from. If I have a trigger point, if I have a trigger point in the temporalis, and it's coming off of the trap down here, then this is what I have to change, and this will go away. Because you've taught that muscle to do something different, because trigger points are referrals. So any Western medicine teaches treating trigger points. And I don't know if you've seen the 3rd edition of Terrell's book. We're really fighting it right now.
No, I mean in a second.
Because they took the trigger points out because they couldn't find it's all Western medicine. It's 42 PTs and a couple doctors. PTs never used it. No. They put her name on the book. Her name, same cover, 3rd edition. And we're really fighting it legally. Yeah. Because it's it's false. It's false. Yeah. And they convinced the publisher to not publish Terrell's books anymore. Wow. That's amazing. Are you getting told? You're getting told something. Oh, time. Have you got? Yes. Look. I've got all the time in the world, but I'm mindful that we don't want to catch you if you've got other things like dinner. No, I ate before I started. Yeah, I ate before I started.
I've got a patient at 12, but I just want to ask a few more things, because that's ruthless. My big thing is that I can't stand someone sticking a dry needle into a teres minor to turn it off. That drives me mad.
I mean, the thing of it is, even if you do turn it off, it's going to come right back. You haven't taught the muscle anything. So dry needling is a money thing. It is not, all you dry needlers out there. We do not treat trigger points. We treat the source of the trigger point. Yeah. That's like if you eat something and you get a headache from it, and I give you a pill for the headache, and it'll help, but I go back and eat the same thing. Yeah. So I get a headache all over again.
Yeah.
The same thing.
I truly believe that a trigger point is the greatest asset we have to be able to use as an assessment tool. It would be like you get to two main intersections in a highway and turn off the red lights.
Yep.
Like that. Why would you remove the red light when that's your assessment pathway?
Have your patient start bringing pictures. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
How many pictures are too many pictures?
How many what?
How many pictures is too many? Or how many pictures is enough?
I tell them all of their sleep positions. If it's back, side, stomach, sidewinder, lying on their back, but sometimes their arms are up here and sometimes they're here, and that shortens all of these muscles. So I can almost from their pictures when they come in, I can tell them where their pain is. And so then the same thing with sitting, watching TV, reading, computer, eating, anything they do sitting, and in different chairs. They might be on the sofa and then a recliner and then a bar stool. Have to have all of those because each one will change what muscles they're compromising. And then the standing front, back, side, because on those you can see whether there's a discrepancy. And it's funny, people will say, no doctor ever had me bring pictures. I said, nobody takes x-rays. Same thing. I just want a picture instead of an x-ray. And,
you want the muscles because they move you.
Yeah, and so they'll come in and they'll have this packet of pictures like this, and they'll say, you're not going to like these because they can already see it. They already know what's going on. They do. So the pictures, and if they call the schedule and they don't have their pictures and I haven't gotten them before they're coming in, I reschedule them.
Yeah.
That's how important it is.
It's
amazing. Like going to the doctor and you're supposed to get an MRI before you come, but you don't get it. He's not going to sit in his office and play tiddlywinks with you.
Yeah, there's no value in it. And patients can actually get their partners to take photos with their camera and just email them so that you've got them in access.
They even text them to me. They can text them.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So you don't have to buy a Polaroid and get this all it's
so easy. They know how to use their phones.
Yeah.
But they really see it once they see what it does, particularly back pain. If they're sitting in a slouch position or in a recliner and they're all short in the front, tilting the lumbar and the pelvic girdle to the back, toward the back, then they've shortened everything in front. And so they're going to have back pain.
Tell us about an abdominal stretch. Have you got one that is a favorite?
Yes.
Because if you're talking about hip flexors and abs, let's get dirty.
Go in the book.
All right.
Sit it's about halfway through the stretches at the back. You sit at the end of the bed with your feet on the floor.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the bed. Back and torso. I'm presuming we do front first, upper body.
I should have had my book here.
I think we had enough technical issues to start with. Oh, yeah. Torso pillow behind the back?
No, but that's an excellent one. Tag, can you hand me my book, one of my books out of the computer room?
Oh, got him. Here he is.
There it is. Never mind. That's it. So to start with, first of all, there's a mistake in that because the arms are up here, which you don't want to do because that shortens all the shoulder stuff. So to start with, only lie on the bed and hang one leg off the side because and never with the knee up. I don't know why I put that in there. Never with the knee up because if one leg is tighter than the other or one part of your ab, then they're going to stretch differently. So one side don't feel much, other side don't feel it. Then go to the end of the bed, the very end with your butt almost falling off, feet on the floor, and lie backward. It stretches all of this.
How long?
Those are the only ones. Almost every other stretch is 2 reps, 2 breaths. Yep. Those I start out with 20 seconds.
Yeah. Because it's got to get that muscle creep, doesn't it? You've got to allow
but the thing of it is, if you overstretch it, it's going to rebound on you and be sore afterward. If anyone's sore afterward, they've stretched it too long or too far.
I'm going to throw
a great stretch. It's one of the best stretches.
Can I throw a cat into the pigeon house?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, what's your thoughts on fascia? Because fascia is what a lot of people talk about now.
Okay. Fascia is not muscles. They don't have memory. They encase the muscle. Fascia can get tight, but it gets tight when the muscle becomes more and more immobile.
Mm-hmm.
So it's around that. So fascia is a useless work, because if you get all the fascia done, that's a big thing now. Fascia is the big buzzword.
Yeah.
If you get everything loose and that muscle underneath is still tight, the fascia is just going to connect again. Mm. It's a non-entity. If you get the muscle working full range of motion, the fascia will break up because the brain says it's not needed anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a supportive connective tissue. That's its thing. It wraps around everything.
So if you get the muscle tighter and tighter, it's going to tighten around that to support the tightness. And you don't have to treat it. All you have to do is treat the muscle and get the muscle loose, and the fascia goes away.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot of money going into tools, going into treatment, and it's crazy. It's crazy. All the tools they're using now, foam rollers and balls and all that, what a waste. What a waste.
Yeah, I've never been a foam roller person.
The thing of it is, it's like, what is that? I went into a PT office not too long ago. But all the PTs are foam rolling everybody's legs. And I'm thinking, what the heck are you doing? It's like, what are you teaching that muscle? I mean, the person could go home and use their hands and massage their leg. They don't need a foam roller to run up and down it. Yeah. But you haven't changed muscle memory.
No.
And if you don't change muscle memory, Tervel would say, that 75% and all that is what eliminates the trigger points. And she said, someone asked her, how long will this treatment last? And she said, only as long as there are perpetuating factors left unaddressed.
Yeah.
If you address, and in the book toward the front, there's a pie chart. It's got pain in the center and then a whole bunch of categories of things that feed into that pain. Yeah, and you have to get them all. You have to get them all. And sometimes what I'll do is give a patient a blank one. I'll fill in maybe a couple, and then I'll give a blank and have them start filling in what it is.
Yeah, like it's posturing stresses, sleep stresses, job stresses, mechanical stresses, family and social stresses, psychological stresses, and other stresses. So it goes across our biopsychosocial. I'm just wondering how terrible JF Kennedy's job stresses and personal stresses.
I was going to show you too. This is a heel lift.
Oh, okay. So it's a full.
This one is only 3 millimeters. They come 5 millimeter and 7 millimeter. Most of the time, people will start with the 7. Okay. And I'll send you the address. Does Amazon mail over there? Can you get Amazon stuff there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not where you're going to get this one. This is from a guy. I get all mine from the PCOs, the shoe inserts, and these. And then the other thing you can't forget is the butt lift. Because if you put this in the heel of your shoe, it works great. But then when you sit down, that's not doing you any good.
No, it's negated the lumbar curve.
So then you sit on this little ischial pad that's about this big on the low side, and then immediately sitting is comfortable.
Yeah. And does that then, I'm presuming it's going to address the functional scoliosis because you bring the ilium to the right height.
Because when you've got them, then the muscle's not needed and the spine will go right back.
So if you correct the perpetuating factors, say for me, this shoulder was elevated because I've got something here. If I can correct the perpetuating factors, this will even out. My iliac crest heights will balance, and I won't need the heel lifts.
No, you have to have the heel lift. The heel lift
okay.
is something. Heel lift is something that everybody who gets a heel lift needs it forever. It's like once you get glasses, you get glasses. You can't decide next year. I don't think I'll wear my glasses anymore. But when you're sitting, it depends on whether the lift is truly in leg length discrepancy, or is there also a discrepancy in the size of the pelvic girdle?
Yeah.
So if there's also a little bit of change in the pelvic girdle, it's a little smaller, then when you're sitting, the lift in your shoe doesn't do any good. So then you sit on this little butt pad.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have to do skeletal measurements on that? Like, do you do X-rays to work out if there's a hemipelvis? Do you get to that level, or
say it again?
Or do you go down the pathway of getting X-rays to see if there's a hemipelvis?
Don't need it. Don't need it. I could see yours just looking at you, and then you do the applied kinese testing, and that'll tell you. And if you take that and put it on the other side, you'll be even weaker.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give that a crack. I definitely will give that a crack. That's so
great.
Interesting.
It's fun.
Yeah. So we've got your book, this, and I encourage anybody who wants to get open their brains to be working with, especially flexibility, because personal trainers, massage therapists, stretching or offering stretches is part of we're allowed to, but this is take home for gentle home care, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is what I want massage people to do. I taught a massage trimester in Florida, and they massage and they do a great job, but they don't teach changing muscle memory, right? And so they come back. So this is what I taught the people in Florida. When a patient comes in, teach them one perpetuating factor, just one at the beginning of the session. Do the hip height, take maybe 3 minutes, and give them a lift. Do your massage, do a great massage. At the end, give them one stretch to keep those muscles in balance. And again, if they do that one stretch frequently, that starts changing. They'll come back and it won't be back anymore. It'll be a shoulder they want you to fix. So and then the next time they come in, you give them a second perpetuating factor and a second stretch. So it utilizes the value of massage. It integrates this work without upsetting anybody, because it total may take 5 minutes out of their massage, but they're gaining tremendous.
And credibility.
So, and they actually did, a number of them started doing that in their practices, and they became the most sought after massage people because they were doing that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, sitting somewhere on a table and rubbing their muscles and their connective tissue and their skin works beautifully for the central nervous system, in that they feel amazing, oxytocin and serotonin and all of that lovely dopamine. But you're right, it's not changing muscle memory at all.
No, and as soon as you do a movement that's incorrect, the brain says, "Oh, I know how to do that. I've been doing it for a long time."
So whatever happened with Dr. Travell? She's passed, or is she still around?
No. She lectured through her 95th year and passed away in 97. Yeah. Her family had her quit medicine and took her up to Massachusetts to be with the family. They took all her medicine away. It was like the saddest thing I ever saw. And then when she got up there, she was only there about a year before she passed away. Because it was gone.
Take a passion.
And so I've got a number of her books and papers and things. I'm really trying to work with the foundation. They've started a Travell Foundation. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to delicately move the association, the American National Association, out of calling it Travell's Trigger Point Mild Therapy, because it's not.
To myofascial pain?
It is not. They can call it something else, but to call it, and I've even thought about starting an organization, the Trail Protocol, the Travel Treatment Protocol National Association.
Yeah, well, I'll join. I've got to say, I met you through Raylene Clark, who's our WA rep, and we're trying to see if I could get involved with assisting with further association pressure, well, like pushing through to get some headway. So I was lucky enough to have met Nancy once before, and maybe 2023 I'll be able to assist with the perpetuating factors section.
So powerful. It's so powerful.
That's what we need to be looking at. Yeah.
And the thing of it is, it's easy. If you start looking at the pictures, you'll start seeing things.
Yeah.
Or if you text me a picture and tell me what you see, then I'll text back what else I see.
We used to do a thing when I was teaching it at Q Academy. We'd take a whole box of bones, and I'd take the students. We'd go just and sit in the pub next door, throw all the bones out, and say, "Look, you're an archaeologist, and you've got to work out the skeleton and work out what's common sense. The big ones aren't going to be at the top, are they? Like, just work it out." But we would also watch people and go, "Okay, what muscles are tight in that person there? What are they doing there that's not the normal? What do you think's happening? Are they going to be tighter on this because of twisting?" So we just were voyeurs for 45 minutes, and we'd stare and check people out all the time. Because if you don't do it, like, that's your aha moment.
I was doing a workshop for a physical therapist, which I only did one. Travell didn't even do one. But when I got there, I said, I'm just going to ask a couple questions so that I don't start going over things that you already know. So I said, if someone comes in and tells you that when they hit a forearm in tennis, they're fine. But if they hit a backhand, it's really painful. What muscles use the backhand, but not the forehand? Not one person could tell me. Not one person. And I said, where do you work? Well, the shoulder. I was like, and that's what they do.
Yeah, it's just, like, these are tight, these are weak because these are tight. We need to get the whole circuit working. Yeah. An extension and horizontal flexion is part of the picture.
Yeah, and those kind of people are often sitting with their shoulders rounded forward so that this all stays. And that's where that stretch with the pillow behind the back, wonderful to stretch all this up.
That's the only reason I use a bolster is I get people to bolster into it, thoracic extension.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
It's great. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. You're doing great work. You're doing great work. I love it.
We try. Yeah. Nancy, I'm mindful that we've gone over our hour time, but we're just short of our hour time. And is there anywhere that we've got some stuff down here that says they can find you for the simple changes to end chronic pain, and that is from Amazon? What else is there anywhere that we can send therapists who want to know more of what you've got to offer?
Yeah, if my email should be in there, in the front, I think.
Okay.
MileConsult@Verizon.net should be in the front of the book. If they email me, tell me what it is they want to know, or what category of what they want to know, or should I be doing this for this pain, or whatever. I'll be right on it.
You'll be very busy. This goes around the world.
No, but I love it. I love it. I mean, it's the kind of thing that everybody's after me about when I'm going to retire. And I said, do that. Travell retired at 95, so I'm trying to beat her record.
You go, sister. Look, the second that you give in to other people's pressure is the first step towards.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. It's been an absolute blessing and a pleasure. Everybody, do yourself a favor. Look for that one in Amazon, or look up Nancy Lee Shaw, and get as much details as you possibly can from her. If you need anything else, type it into the chat boxes after this. The recordings are going to go up. I'll pop them in for Nancy, and I'll keep them on my site for a while. And you could get some information from Nancy there. But Nancy, it has been an absolute pleasure. I have enjoyed every moment. You are a fountain of knowledge.
Well, Travell, I was so blessed to run into Travell. You know, it was, you always wonder why things happen. And when she picked me, and I was a farm girl from Nebraska, it was like, you know, I don't know anything. But it's like she didn't want you to know anything. She wanted to teach you. That's what was fun.
And that's what you're passing on to us. Exactly.
All right, I look forward to talking with you.
Yes, stick around after we go goodbye so I can say goodbye properly. But everybody, thank you so much. Next January, we probably may or may not have something about, I've got something in the wings that might be about perinatal, how you manage life in the perinatal phase, and then hopefully Pilates in February. But if I don't get a chance to see you between now and then, have a safe break, safe vacation, keep off the road, spend time with your loved ones, and we will see you in 2023.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. God bless.